it is outpacing us 10 to 1, finding much better candidates than we're finding. And they're finding candidates that we don't know where to find, right? So some's coming from LinkedIn, some's coming from the millions of candidate databases that are out there. But this tool is constantly searching, constantly refreshing results.
The Intelligence Forge podcast is sponsored by Permasize AI Forge. The Intelligence Forge podcast is sponsored by Permasize AI Forge. At Permasize AI Forge, we know you're ambitious, but are manual tasks like admin, lead generation, nurturing, and onboarding holding you back from truly scaling your business? Imagine saving dozens of hours every week, freeing you to deepen client relationships and execute high-impact strategy. Our clients aren't just imagining it. They're saving countless hours per week and doubling their revenue within months. We custom build AI automation systems that eliminate the grind. From effortless lead generation and nurturing to seamless onboarding, we give you back the most valuable resource, your time, so you can focus on building those vital human connections and driving strategic growth. Stop letting repetitive tasks limit your potential. It's time to build a business that works for you, not the other way around. Ready to unlock your true scaling power? Visit PermasizeAIForge.com and book your free AI audit call today to discover how you can save time and double your revenue. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the Intelligence Forge YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new episode.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Our guest today is Nick. He's going to be introducing himself in details for you to know him, to meet him, and to know exactly what he does. So let's get started, Nick. The floor is yours. I just want you to introduce yourself in terms of who you are, what you do, and then I'm going to ask you another follow-up question.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you again for inviting me on this podcast today. Nick Mastrovito. I'm the founder and owner of Mastrovito Associates. We're a fractional/subscription-based recruiting company. I've been doing this for 8 or 9 years, and my verticals are primarily engineering, defense, and then I also work in the A&E MEP construction arena as well.
All right, fantastic. We're going to be diving into some of your background, but I just want you to tell us about some of your journey from the military background. I know that you have a military background and how you transition into forming your company. What inspired you into this transition into recruiting?
It's an interesting question, and it's also an interesting journey. So I did not spend my entire time on active duty in the military. So I've actually formed several companies before. But 8 years ago, I got a franchise broker reached out to me and said, "Hey, have you ever considered, owning a franchise, starting a small business?" And that kind of is what got me into doing this. So I actually own a company and a recruiting franchise. The two are separate because they're focused differently. But that's where I thought, you know what, this is something that I like to do. Throughout my time in the military, I was always helping people with writing their resume, learning how to network, those kinds of things. And so this just became a natural offshoot of, well, I was doing it for free. Let me do it now for pay.
Okay. How long do you spend in the military?
I spent 20 years, but over a 30-year period, because there were periods where I was in the military, but I wasn't really in the military. I was an individual ready reserve, which means I was doing nothing.
Wow, that's interesting. Right. Your firm, your company has a unique philosophy about creating happy marriage between talent and visionary companies. How has that vision shaped the way you approach your recruiting today?
Well, a majority, I don't know the statistics here, but a majority of recruiters today are what we call contingency recruiters, which is where I started as well. So a company says, "Hey, I'm looking for, like today I'm working on a process engineer. I'm looking to hire a process engineer. When I place somebody, they will pay me a fee. But it's a pure transaction. I want to get away from being a pure transaction, and I want to actually help companies. Recruiting is one piece, but it's really the symptom. It's not the problem. The problem could be that the company has the wrong people in the wrong places. They offer the wrong type of salary, wrong type of benefits. They may have a toxic environment. I mean, there could be a whole host of issues. And I don't mean to sound like all companies are bad. That's not the problem. That's not the point. The point is that if I can come in a little bit higher level learn more about the company, then with fractional or subscription, I can actually be more effective because now I am constantly feeding them candidates. I know I have a better idea of what they're looking for. And so that's where the happy marriage comes in. If I can find a great candidate for this company and they can meet in the middle and they're happy with each other, then that makes my job much easier. We're now creating this happy marriage between the two. And I will also get return business that way because they'll say, hey, when we employ Mastrovito associates, they always present good candidates. They don't just present a bunch of people that aren't qualified for the job. Getting a little bit deeper with the fractional or subscription, like I said, if I can come in higher and look at the entire talent acquisition, human capital process, then I can also be much more effective as a recruiter and present even better candidates faster to the company.
Wow. So it means that you're doing almost everything holistically, not just giving them candidate, but be sure that the candidate could do the job, the candidate is happy, the company is happy, which is pretty much good because, there's no point giving somebody a candidate and then 2 months down the line, they separate ways and then they come back to you again to say, oh, can you give us somebody else? And then like a mismatch kind of a thing. So looking at the approach, I think more or less what you're doing is like being a doctor. So you're looking, not just diagnosing somebody, you're giving the treatment, following up, making sure the patient is still doing fine and doing checkups and everything, which is a good model. I think this is the first time I'm hearing this kind of model, and I think it's really fantastic. Thanks for sharing. Okay, now let's go into one of the elephants in the room. At what stage did you start thinking and saying, AI is here? Let me put AI into my business. At what stage did you integrate AI into your business model? Just walk us through that model exactly that you started with. I don't know if it's still the same model you started with or you've upgraded in terms of you've seen 1, 2 today, you use it, or it's just 1, 2 that you've ever used. But the most important part of the question is at what stage do you realize I need to start using AI into my business?
I don't know if can exactly tell you the stage. Probably about 5 years ago, the whole idea of AI and it was more. Today a lot of talk about AI is how do I make routine jobs easier, faster, etc. Which I think that's a great use of AI. But about 5 years ago, I was starting to meet with people who are saying, hey, look, we can help you do sourcing faster, etc. Right? Automate your process. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't see anything very impressive. It was, it would be like a LinkedIn search, and it would be, hey, we're gonna make your search string that much stronger. But it's like, okay, well, I can do the same thing. Yeah, it's going to take me longer than AI will take me. But the reality is, you're not really speeding up the process much, right? You might be taking 5 minutes out of my life, but 5 minutes isn't worthwhile. It wasn't until this year that I started seeing real AI in sourcing. So sourcing is the part of recruiting where, hey, I haven't interviewed the person. All I've done is I found somebody. I've had a screening call with them. I've done whatever I'm going to do, and then I've presented them to the client, right? So this year, I saw 3 or 4 different AI products out there. One gave me this open demo. It wasn't bad, and it was fairly inexpensive, but it was all centered on LinkedIn. I've been using LinkedIn now for 10 years. I've done a lot of recruiting on LinkedIn, and I'm like, okay, well, and it wasn't a bad model, but right behind it was the current AI tool that I'm using, and it's doing things that I'm not capable of doing. And I've also got 2 recruiters. It is outpacing us 10 to 1, finding much better candidates than we're finding, and they're finding candidates that we don't know where to find, right? So some's coming from LinkedIn, some's coming from the millions of candidate databases that are out there, but this tool is constantly searching, constantly refreshing results, and then it has revolutionized my business because my typical modus operandi is I find a candidate, I call them, I text them, I email them. I do that 4 times. And if I don't get a response after the 4th time, then I let them go. But sometimes, even after the fourth email, a week later, a candidate will come back and say, hey, I know I missed all your calls and all your text messages, but I'm interested, right? Which is great. Well, with this AI tool, I don't even have time to use my regular mode because I am getting so many connection requests from LinkedIn, from email, from SMS, that I don't have, all I'm doing is putting candidates on my calendar, doing a screening interview, and working with my client to say, hey, do you like this person? Let's set up an interview, that kind of thing. So completely revolutionized the way I'm doing business. I've also added, there's another tool out there where it's building, and the tool was built by this person who works for the United States government. He started it in January because so many people were getting terminated by the U.S. government. And he was like, hey, I'd like to build an AI resource where they can come here for free, hang their resume there, and then I'll get clients, people like me, recruiters, that are looking for people. So I do post my jobs there. I don't post my jobs very often because in most cases you get a lot of garbage, especially with there are companies out there that have the auto apply. So it says engineer in the title, but it says mechanical engineer, and I get 1,000 software engineers, and it's like, hey, I love you software engineers, but I'm really looking for a mechanical engineer. My client really wants a mechanical engineer, or really wants a chemical engineer, and sorry, you're nowhere near that. So this company, like I said, it's a startup. They're allowing me to post jobs there. I can also schedule interviews. I can review. I can do everything there, which is kind of cool because sometimes you have this system that now has to talk to this system that now has to talk to this system. This is all kind of in one place. I can do everything from there. I can also search the database to see if there are candidates that, and then I can reach out to them directly from there. So there's a lot of neat applications out there, and it's only gonna get bigger, right? There's more functionality, but I really like the platform I'm using right now. It is very powerful. Like I said, I know that over time there will be better
improvement.
But I'm sold on AI. I'm absolutely sold on AI.
All right. So maybe in just one sentence. So this system you're using, do you just type in, I'm looking for mechanical engineering, and then it goes to the web to go and look for whoever is in that field? Or do you put the requirements, you put whatever, and then the search? So how do you prompt this particular software you're using?
So a lot of pre-built templates, but yes, I can either upload the position description right there, and it will read it from there, which is not bad, but most companies don't write very good position descriptions. Or it's not just or I can also prompt it and say, hey, this person must have X degree, this person must live in this location, this person must have X amount of experience, this person must have this experience, and then it shoots out to a number of databases, and it starts bringing in, and it's not discriminating at this point. At this point, it's just bringing in candidates. And then it will rate the candidates 1 through 5. It'll say, hey, you had 6 things that they need, 6 qualifications. This person meets all 6 qualifications. This person only meets 3 of them. This person meets 4 of them. And a lot of times, I'll ask a question, I was recruiting for a construction superintendent, and it said I needed federal construction work, but it's hard to find. It's hard to find someone that says federal construction superintendent, right? The AI actually came back and said, well, this person worked for this company which has done federal construction work. So there's a good chance that this person has experience in federal construction. It's pretty powerful, pretty neat, it's much better than what I could do myself, by myself.
The good thing is they don't need to apply. You need to look for them. You're looking for them. And if you put the correct requirement, it means you get the top notch of what you're looking for. As against what you said earlier, which I'm aware of, somebody is just an engineer, and you're looking for a water engineer, and then a mechanical engineer is popping up for you. It's useless. That's not what you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's one of the power of AI, because the more information you are able to give, the better the result you get back. Wow.
Right.
I'm really excited and I'm glad that you're really using it. And I think it's going to revolutionize the recruiting industry if people adopt it. I think that's just the caveat. If people adopt it. Thanks for sharing that. Now, let's go deeper into what the capability of AI. You are one of the voice, or rather, you, from one of your comments, that within the industry, people focus on using AI for 2-minute tasks. And for you, that's a no-no. So why do you think that mindset is limiting the potential of AI?
Well, on LinkedIn, there's a lot of ads there that say, hey, we can cut 20, recruiter, we can cut 20 hours out of your day or 20 hours out of your week by automating these processes. I don't argue that. I was an internal recruiter, and I will tell you, most internal recruiters, and again, most is probably too generalized of a term, but many internal recruiters spend a lot of time doing non-pay activities. They're scheduling interviews, they're scheduling follow-ups, they're scheduling, so they're not really interfacing with the candidate. They're not really looking for candidates because they've got all this other stuff. So in that aspect, yes, AI can probably speed some of that stuff up. I don't know how it would look at probably 10 people's calendars and say, I'm sure it can do that. I know that there are AIs out there that record, like Otter, and there's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
Fred that record. To me, so the part of the process that I will probably never change is I want to build a personal relationship with my candidate. I can't do that through AI, right? And I've actually had candidates, because they don't see me, I'm talking on the phone. They say, well, I don't know if you're AI. I don't know if this job is AI. I don't know if the company is AI. And it's like, yeah, I get you. I understand that. And I tell them, I'm like, look, I'll directly to my LinkedIn page. I'll hang up and you can call me and I will answer the phone. You can text me, so whatever it is I need to do to make sure you know that I'm a human, I will do.
Yeah.
So some of those tasks, to me, first of all, I don't do a lot of those tasks. My conversations that I have with my candidates, I take notes a specific way. I don't write long sentences up, because when I'm writing a cover letter to a client, right, I'm trying to think of, if I was the hiring manager and somebody was sending me this resume. I was a CEO of a company, of an engineering company. If someone sent me a letter saying, hey, please hire me, and these are the reasons why, well, I'm trying to express why do I recommend this candidate? I'm not just sending you a resume. I'm sending somebody that I represent. I can't do that effectively, and maybe you can prove me wrong, but I don't feel like I don't want to do that, because I want to have that personal connection with that candidate. Because sometimes candidates do things that are not good ideas, and I'd like to be able to steer them back in and say, hey, don't do this, do this, right? So there's a lot of activities that internal recruiters do that I don't need to do. The recording a conversation with a candidate, it's not like I'm talking to 100 candidates a day. If I was doing staffing, different story, because I need to hire 40 operators today, and I don't have time to go, hey, well, now, what did Emmanuel say? What did Nick say? What did John say? I don't have time. That's a great use of AI. I don't have that problem, right? So a lot of the I don't have a bunch of those. And I like putting notes in my ATS the way I want to put them in there, because sometimes I know, hey, this person's not the right person. I know this, and I'm not going to send their resume, but I want to tag them for future use. And I want to tag them in a particular way. Maybe there's something that he said that I'm like, I need to remember that, and it needs to go in that file. That, again, AI would record that, but they may not. I don't want a book. I want a summary. I don't need 12,000 words. I need 100 words on, hey, what did I talk to this candidate about, and what do I need to know about this candidate?
Right. So I think it's all about what is working for you, or what will work for you, what will make your work effective rather than nice to have. Because sometimes people just have something nice to have. It's not really useful for them. But the core thing for you is If you're using AI, make sure that it's actually effective for you. I think you clearly hear, and I think it's well said, and I agree with you perfectly. Thanks for sharing that. In your own view, what is the future of AI in the recruiting industry? Do you think if I'm a recruiter today and I'm not adopting AI, I will be left behind? Or you think, well, it's just going to be an addition, it doesn't really matter. What's your view on that?
Well, the only reason I adopted AI was because I did not want to get left behind. But since adopting AI, I realized the absolute power. This engine runs so fast, and I have the ability to turn on a search where it's on autopilot, where it says, it's learned these are the right kinds of candidates, and now it's automatically reaching out to these candidates 24 hours a day. So when I'm sleeping, my AI recruiter is still working. Right?
Continue to work.
My AI recruiter is still working. So I don't ever see a time where we're going to ever go back to just manual recruiting. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think even if you take the niche of executive search where a company is looking for a new CEO or a new COO and they want to do a specific search, I think AI even has a place there. So if you're not willing to adopt AI, I think you're going to get left behind. And I don't know where this is going to end. Eventually AI will probably replace recruiters. Now, it may not replace all recruiters, but it's going to be robust enough that, we've already seen this with, there's a company that does video interviews, but there's only one person on the video, and that's the candidate. The video asks questions, gives a certain amount of time, to answer the question, and then it moves on. And it does the entire interview that way, right? Not a great tool in my opinion, but if you needed, like I said, if you were looking for, hey, I need 50 operators, to go work at an Amazon site, I can ask specific questions. If this person answers these correctly, has the right experience, boom, he gets kicked into, yes, we're going to do a second interview. If not, it's like, sorry, rejected. I feel like AI might develop to that point as well. The question is, where will the candidate be? I think that there will be some candidates that enjoy that because they don't like talking to humans, so talking to an AI bot or an AI agent would be fine with them. But I don't know how widely, is that going to be in the next 5 years? I don't know. I could see it at least in the next 10 to 15 years. But how quickly this will progress and how far it will progress, that's an interesting question. And I don't know the answer to that question. And I don't want it to progress too fast because I'd like to have a job.
You don't want to be left behind in the train because If it's too far, then you may not be able to catch the train. Well, I hear you correctly, and I agree with you. The moving train, we don't know the speed yet. And If it's too fast, we have no choice than to just hop in and then adjust ourselves as we go along. We don't have to get it right at the same time, but just make sure you are in the train, you are not outside the train, then you will be fine. I think you stopped me up. You said something which I'm just going to ask you now. Normally I will ask at the end, but let me ask you now because you already touched on it. Do you think that AI is going to replace people or replace people who do not adopt AI? You want me to repeat it?
No. So there's two questions there. The first question, will AI replace people? In some cases, yes. Right now, I'm ready to let my 2 recruiters go. I'm not going to let them go, but I'm ready for that. My AI tool is working much faster than they are, much more accurate than they are. And I love them. I've worked with both of them. I've worked with one for 3 or 4 years, and I've worked with the second for maybe 2 years now. And they're great guys. They're working. They try to do the best they can, but my AI tool is much faster, much more effective than them. Will AI completely take over recruiting 100%? I don't think it will ever do it 100%, but I definitely think that it will eat into more and more of a recruiter's job. But like I said, an internal recruiter probably only spends 50% of their time recruiting, and that spends the other 50% of time doing a lot of the stuff, which in some cases only a human can do, in some cases AI can do. But the other thing about AI, before I go to the second question, is upskilling. right? So we talk about AI not replacing your job. We're talking about AI doing the mundane tasks while I train you to be the analyst versus the data enterer, right? So I think that there's a lot of potential for upskilling where you can be much more effective in talent acquisition.
That's true.
And yet you still have AI there that's doing a majority of the work. As for the second part, yes, I think that if you never adapt AI, you will eventually be left behind. It's the speed at which AI moves. You can't catch that train. I don't believe.
All right. I think you sharing a different perspective to what I believe and what we preach in our company. The first part of the question. And I can say I agree with you but maybe to some extent, but I will give you the other perspective. So you have two recruiters that are doing something for you. Now you have an AI system that is doing exactly the same, even faster and more effective. Then the question is, why do I need somebody to still do it manually? It makes no sense because what they're even doing manually may not be that effective as the one doing with AI. And AI could even do 24 hours, like you're saying. They're not going to take time off. They're not going to be sick. They're not going to have family problem. How does excuse that human will give you? They don't have it. So then why do you want to keep human? But here is where I flip it. Is there anything else that they can do within the company using AI? If you cannot find it, really, naturally, you have no choice than to let them go. It's fair because you can't keep anybody just sitting down because of emotion and just keep them. The only thing you can do is to tell them, well, we are a recruiting company. We can help you recruit somewhere to leverage you. Otherwise, there's really nothing. In that situation, there's really nothing. But I will give you another example. We also do help IT companies. So what we tell them is, if you have 2 IT technicians who could only do 15 jobs in a day, now we help you with automation. The same technician can now do 40 jobs. What we will tell you is don't lay off the remaining people. We will help you to scale your client acquisition to get more jobs, and then you're able to give those guys more jobs, you get more money. So you see now how we use AI not to lay people off, but to even help companies to make more money. So that's what we preach, and that's the pattern that we go about.
I also think that, AI sometimes also doesn't get it quite right.
Sure.
So I do think that there's also the need for some human sometimes checking to say, even my AI, sometimes, I've seen a couple, like one of the jobs I'm recruiting for is a professional engineer, mechanical engineer with a professional engineer license. And I've seen sometimes where all the candidates they found were civil engineers. Well, I'm looking for a mechanical engineer, not a civil engineer. Yes, they're an engineer, and yes, they have a PE, but they don't have a mechanical PE, they have a civil PE. So sometimes, sometimes a human has to interface with AI and say, you're a little off here. Maybe you had something bad for lunch and you got an upset tummy, but there is still the need. But I liked what you said. It's like, hey, if you have an IT analyst doing 15 jobs, well, I can now increase your throughput to 40. Well, now I can help you with business development to get even more jobs. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense as well. Absolutely.
Because that's the pattern we preach, and that's what we do to let people know that AI is not here to actually eradicate people's job. It's to enhance it. Even though some people may argue, yes, like you even say, which is maybe correct, you say, yes, some people will lose their job. But the emphasis should be, if you are willing to learn, if you are willing to upskill, if you're willing to, then there will be more opportunity for you. I will give you a statistics before I forget my line of thought. You see, okay, let me give you the statistics that about 55 million jobs will be lost to AI. When you hear that number, some people will start shivering. 55 million. Wow. But do you know the other side of the statistics? 95 million new jobs will be created. Not 95 million will be that you are willing to use AI. So meaning you are willing to learn new skills, you're willing to learn technology. So if you are not willing, the new opportunities, you can't benefit from it. There's no way. I'll give you an example. We develop a AI system for a company for social media. So just to buttress your point, when you're talking about human angle, again, part of what we tell people is that we do not believe that you have an AI system that does everything from 1 to 100%. We give a benefit of 95%. 5% minimum of human element must be there because AI can be wrong. If you look at some of these tools, at the bottom you see, I am AI, I can be wrong. They're giving you warning. So
absolutely.
You don't rely on me completely. I'm so smart, I'm so versatile, but still I can make mistakes. So that 5%. So this is what we do. At the beginning, you already put, okay, I want you to search the web, topics that I can write on for content, and then goes everywhere, look at the topic based on your industry, and then comes back and say, here is the topic for this week, 7 topics. Then it sends it to you either on Slack or on email for you to approve. When you look at the topics, no, this one is not relevant, reject. This one is not relevant, reject. This one, okay, let me edit it, edit. This one is okay, approved. Then the one you reject goes back again, goes again to the web, bring another topic. And then until when you approve everything, then it goes back to go and write it, put all the videos, put the images, everything, and then send it. These are the content that I'm ready to post. Human being, we still have to look through it, read it, and then approve. No, this content is not good enough. No, it's not good enough. Reject. Okay, let me just edit this line, edit, send it back. Until human approve it, nothing is sent out. Because when you send it out, nobody cares who sent it, who did it, if it's AI or not. You take responsibility as the owner of the company.
And you don't want to send out bad statistics, right? I do exactly what you're talking about. I use Perplexity and I say, hey, I want you to write a blog. I have the main thought, right? I'm like, I want you to write a blog about this. But I remember early in January, the massive layoffs, and I said, I didn't want to write about government layoffs. I wanted to write about, if you're a company that's about to go through a massive layoff, what does that mean for your employees? That vein. And it went, and that all it talked about was the federal government. And I said, no. I don't want to talk about the federal government because I don't care. I don't recruit for the federal government. I could care less. I'm sorry that people are losing their jobs, but it's part of life. But I was specifically looking to, commercial companies. And so I had to go back and say, no, you took this one little fact and you made a whole blog about it. Great. But that's not the focus I was looking for. I was looking for this focus over here. And so you're absolutely right. And I do that. When I create my content, I constantly do that. But when I see numbers, I'm an engineer, I have to always challenge the numbers. Where did you get this? 54% of blah, blah, blah. Well, where did this 54% come by? And if it came from reliable sources, and I'll read those articles, and I'm like, okay, I feel good about it because you're right. I have to take responsibility. I posted this. And it's not even so much if I'm wrong, I'm trying to be a thought leader in the recruiting industry. And if my thoughts are, if my content's always wrong, what kind of a thought leader am I? I'm not doing a very good job of trying to advise the industry on the recruiting side. If I'm just producing garbage, I'm not doing it, right?
That's true. I was speaking with somebody, I think 2 weeks ago, and the guy told me point blank. He said, I cannot hold AI responsible for my decision. Then it tells me that we still need education. People still need education about AI because people have some kind of misconception, some wrong ideas, and they need to be educated. So that takes me to the next question in saying, what advice do you have for companies that are still resisting adopting AI into their model, especially industry like defense and engineering? What do you have to say to them?
Well, I actually wrote a thesis for my MBA many years ago. It wasn't about AI because AI then was still science fiction, but it was about when do you make that decision to adopt the next technological advantage, right? Because especially during that time, Microsoft every 6 months was coming out with a new version. Microsoft 7, Microsoft, and the question was, you're a very large corporation. I mean, the United States Army, I think Microsoft 7 came out, and we were still on like 5 versions behind because it just takes so long for that technology to happen. So for a company that is resisting AI, the question has to be why? What is stopping you from at least looking at AI? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I remember my son several years ago said, "Hey, I'm a Toastmaster, so I give speeches, and I wanted to do a parody of A Christmas Carol, and I was going to write it myself, but the parody was actually going to be on April 15th, the tax day, right? And it was going to be a parody of the Christmas Carol about taxes, about paying the IRS." And he said, "Oh, well, I just pulled this up on ChatGPT. I put the Christmas Carol in there, and it came out." And I was like, "Wow, that's pretty fascinating." So I think the fear that a lot of people have is it's the fear of the unknown. But if I tell everybody, use ChatGPT or use Gemini or find something that you like and just prompt it. Just ask it a question. And that's what, obviously that's what you need to do. You can't just say red. Well, it's going to go red what? But if you ask it a question, and you'll start to see the power rapidly. So for a company that is unwilling to do that, the question's got to be why. What is preventing you from at least exploring? I'm not saying that, hey, you need to adopt tomorrow, because like everything else, I mean, AI is moving rapidly, right? And you don't want to be, hey, I just spent $100,000 on this AI platform that's outdated 2 months later. I got that. I understand that. But you at least need to be, if you're not in AI, you need to be in AI, because otherwise you will get left behind. I use AI for everything now. I love it. I mean, I found that Gemini actually generates images faster than ChatGPT does. And so now I'll write a blog and say, hey, oh, by the way, produce an image or a picture. And I always go to look on Google to see if they're just stealing something off Google, and they're not. They're actually producing another image. It's like, that's amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah. I think the world needs education. I think that I will agree with. The world needs education. I mean, if you speak to some people, when you hear the way they talk about some certain things, then you ask, are they living in this world, or they are living in another planet? That's the kind of world we live in. People need education. Thanks for sharing that. Now, I want to ask you this personal question, and I believe you must have something to tell us about this. So if you could snap your finger, if you have a magic wand now, what AI tools or what the capability may be that you would think you want to see now within your industry? I don't want to go broad to say maybe other industry, but within your industry, which tool do you think, well, have not seen this, but if I could get it today, this I would definitely go for it?
That's a very interesting question. If you would have asked me that question 3 months ago, 6 months ago, I would have said exactly what I'm doing. A powerful tool that can source. I'm also, by the way, using the platform for client development. I just started that side, but it would source, it would do client development, it would produce videos for me, it would produce social media content for me, it would be all in one.
In one box.
Yeah, but I'm okay with using different tools because they're not really interfering. And they don't necessarily need to be integrated. But if I had the perfect tool, yes, it would do everything.
Well, I mean, what I would say yesterday, a lady told me on the podcast that she sees AI as the way people meditate. That when you meditate, you say a lot of things. Then I said, well, I didn't look at it that way. But what she meant was that the more you give to AI in terms of prompt, when you want to prompt either Gemini, whatever you are using, the more effective your prompt is, the better the answer you get. In fact, both of them were on the podcast yesterday. The husband too were there, their business partner. And the guy says, do you know, which I know anyway, he said, do you know that if I want to do something, I will ask AI, What do I want to do? Tell me how I want to do something, but tell me what I need to ask you to do for me. So you're asking AI to give you requirements for you to ask AI to now produce that requirement. I said, yes, I know. I do that also. I said, that is how powerful AI could be. You have the idea in your head that I want to write a book, but you don't know the topic. You don't know what. Then you ask AI, I want to write a book, but tell me, what should I ask you to do for me so that I can get a perfect book? Then it begins to list you the outline. Then you know, okay, now produce a book, topic, this, that. So to just buttress what you're saying, in essence, whatever you want from AI, as long as you can articulate it, it can be done. I think the willpower is just what we need. So what's stopping us to get to that higher level of, they call it rest? The outcome is rest. Because if you have something that is doing 95% of the job for you, and you just have to spend 5% to do the QA and get everything done perfectly, I think we all can live a life of rest with a better outcome. If you agree with me. All right, thank you so much. Where can people find you? In case anybody was just like, I think I love what this guy is saying. I think I want to go further. And where can people find you? How can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn under both my name as well as my company, Mastrovito Associates. I'm also on Facebook under Mastrovito Associates, where you can find me personally there. I also have a website. You know, I'm not a big fan of websites because in the recruiting industry, everybody can do all things wonderfully faster and cheaper than anybody else. And I don't say that on my website. You know, I'm perfectly honest. There are times when someone says, hey, I'm looking for this. And I'm like, yeah, I could figure it out, but I don't have the database. I don't have the experience. I mean, the reason I'm in the 3 verticals I'm in is because I was in the Army defense industry, and I've also recruited for the defense industry for a number of years. I'm an engineer, I'm a mechanical engineer. I've worked in manufacturing, so I know those kinds of jobs. And in the Army, my last job, I had a specialized engineer unit with mechanical, electrical, structural, all of the disciplines that you would find in a architecture and engineering firm or mechanical, electrical, plumbing firm, you know, construction related. So those 3 verticals I know well because I've been there. You know, so that's why, you know, with my website, I'm like, I have a website because it's a requirement. I don't expect people to go, oh, you know, I'm going to hire him because of his website. Now, I have had people come to my website and say, hey, you're a recruiter. I'd like to talk to you about an engagement. I'm all open for that. Social media, you know, like I said, I have a large presence on social media. I'm also on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, Mastrovito Associates, of course. So, you know, I would love to talk to anybody that is serious about finding the right person for the right place. And I also have some other tools that I can use. One's called Line of Sight. The other one's Predictive Index, helping companies to get better at finding and retaining, you know, great employees. You know, and ultimately, you know, sometimes you hire somebody and it's the wrong person, right? That does happen. We are humans. That's another area where AI can help. AI can say, hey, you have an emotional attachment to this person, but let's really diagnose and see if this is if it's the right person for this job. Doesn't make them a bad person. If they're not, it just means that, hey, this is not the right person for this particular role, for whatever reason.
Well said, well said. I think I learned a lot from you, and I believe the people that will be watching and listening to this podcast later, they will definitely learn a lot, and I believe they will maybe asking questions which possibly somebody else will answer. Probably if we are privy to those questions, we try our best to also answer those questions. I want to say thank you for coming once again. I really do appreciate it. If you have any last thing to say, you can say that before we close it off.
Well, thank you. And Emmanuel, thank you so much for inviting me. This has been a great discussion. And I've learned something as well. I mean, you've said some things that I'm like, no, I didn't even think about it that way. So I love that discussion. And I would love to, you know, help your company grow because, yes, I agree with you. I think AI is here to stay, and let's make it great for us rather than it being another tool that falls by the wayside, right? So absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Nice meeting you, sir.
Nice
And
meeting
all the
you.
best. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you so much. Appreciate
All
it.
right, bye.
You didn't quit your day job to become a full-time admin assistant. The Intelligence Forge podcast is sponsored by Permasize AI Forge. At Permasize AI Forge, we know you didn't start your business to spend 60 hours a week on paperwork, chasing leads, and managing endless admin tasks. You started it to build something meaningful and serve your clients. But right now, you're trapped in the day-to-day grind instead of growing your business. What if I told you our clients are reclaiming 15, 20 hours per week, increasing their revenue by 30 to 50% within 6, 12 months, and finally getting their lives back? We don't just automate random tasks. We build custom AI systems that eliminate the bottlenecks choking your growth, from leads generation to lead, nurturing and management to project management to client follow-ups. Stop paying for an expensive, frustrating manual system. It's time to upgrade to strategic automation. Visit PermasizeAIForge.com and book your free business transformation strategy call today. Discover exactly how much time and money you're losing to manual processes and how to get both back. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Intelligence Forge, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode packed with game-changing insights. Your future automated business is waiting.